he said, I've got this Chief Select. And I'm like, huh? Because on active duty, we had just pinned all of our Chief Selects about 3 years prior. And I'm kind of like, okay, did we forget somebody? And he went on to explain to me that Chief Select Crossman had been selected in the Sea Cadet to be a Chief Petty Officer. It took me a couple minutes to really wrap my head around that, because it's a little bit different on active duty, Sea Cadets, and that sort of thing. And then I was like, you know what, I would absolutely love the opportunity to talk with Jackie and tell her a little bit about being a Chief Petty Officer, some of the things we do, and that sort of thing. So Jackie came over to the squadron, I think probably a little nervous the first day, with her selectee name badge on, and in the proper uniform, which I was thankful for. And we spent some time together, and I talked to her about being a Chief Petty Officer. It's obviously a little bit different being 18 years old and instead of 42 on active duty, but some of the same principles apply. Some of the same principles apply as far as leadership as a Chief Petty Officer in the Navy, and her heading off to college next year and into her life and choosing whatever it is that she chooses to do. A lot of the principles of leadership remain the same, no matter who you are, no matter what you're doing to the people that you're leading. And I tried to impart some of that upon her, and one of the things, what's your charge book, Chief Select? Oh, you left it by itself, didn't you? So, real quick, a little bit of history of the Chief Petty Officer. This book right here, this is Chief Select Crossman's charge book, which, for those of you who have any idea, this is not supposed to be left by itself. And basically, the origin of this was way back in the day, before there was actually Chief Petty Officers, and it was a formal ceremony pinning and all that sort of thing. Basically, as sailors went up, the only way for them to gain knowledge was to go around and learn from different people and have it written down in a book. So the skipper of the ship would give them a book, a charge book, and they would go around and they would get bits of wisdom and that sort of thing, whether it's technical expertise or leadership, principles or theories or anything like that. And they were required to keep that book with them. And now when we go through on active duty, it's a little bit more, there's a little bit more punishment, shall we say, if your book is found lying about. And we also have vessels that we build to put it in so it's secured. But one of the things that I had tasked Chief Select with doing was having a charge book. And for her, it wasn't so much only Chief Petty Officers, although that was kind of part of it, but really anybody that she maybe respected, looked up to, that she thought was a good leader or had any wisdom for her, she could go to and ask them to sign her book. And this is something that will follow her, can follow her for the rest of her life. I know for me personally, nobody but a Chief Petty Officer has ever seen my charge book. Not my wife and my kids have never seen it, and nor shall they until I pass. That's just what it means to me and to most chiefs I know. So that was a little bit of fun having her do this, because the directions for just this book were, what, 2.5 pages, thereabouts. So to wrap it up, I will say that to me, this is the equivalent of when I made Chief Petty Officer, and that was probably, outside of the birth of my children, one of the greatest days of my life. And I think over the last 6 years you've been in the Sea Cadets, this is probably the culmination of that career for her. And for that, she's always going to be a Chief Petty Officer. So I would like to, real quick, before we go any further, I would like to give her a round of applause for what she's accomplished. And with that, if her brother, Lieutenant Commander, would care to come up and pin her anchors on. Unfortunately, we didn't have the opportunity to run a Chief Select Crossman through a final night as we do on active duty. It would have been nice. It would have been interesting. Don't know that she would have been in any shape to stand up here in front of everybody tonight. Had her a little nervous for a little bit, but it all worked out. Chief Bash is going to present her with her cover, and this is one of the things that really truly distinguishes a Chief Petty Officer from the junior enlisted in the Navy, including the wardrobe. This is what people strive for, and the combination cover for both male and female is a symbol of a Chief Petty Officer. And one last symbol of the Chief is a Chief's cutlass. This is from back in the olden days, the days of wooden ships, USS Constitution. I hope everybody's familiar with it. And this was really for those leaders that would fight hand-to-hand on the decks. If you ever see an officer's sword, it's a whole lot different. It's more for show instead of use. Back in those days, officers fought, you know, one-on-one and the whole on guard sort of thing. But the guys on the deck plates, when they fought, it was slashing and stabbing. And you see the cutlass has a handguard on it, and each part means something different. But this is today a traditional symbol of the Chief Petty Officer as well. And in the Naval Service, the only ones that carry a cutlass are Chief Petty Officers. So in that vein, Chief Crossman, I present to you Chief Cutlass. Wow. Absolutely. Round of applause. No worries, sir.
Chief Petty Officer appointment. To all who shall see these presents greetings, know ye that reposing special trust and confidence in the fidelity and abilities of Jacqueline Crossman, I do appoint Jacqueline Crossman to the rate of Chief Petty Officer in the Naval Sea Cadet Corps, to rate as such from this day, 10th day of November in the year 2013. This appointee will therefore carefully and diligently discharge the duties of the rate of which appointed by doing and performing all manner of things thereunder pertaining, and I do strictly charge and require all personnel of lesser rate to render obedience to appropriate orders, and this appointee is to observe and follow such orders and directions as may be given from time to time by superiors acting accordingly to the articles governed by the Naval Sea Cadet Corps. Given under my hand and sealed, the Naval Sea Cadet Corps, National Headquarters, Arlington, Virginia, on this 23rd day of October in the year of our Lord 2013. Executive Director.
Very good.